All right, Clint. Well, thank you again for being on Inspire Your Success.
Thanks, man. Glad to be on the show today, Michael. Thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely, man. I'm so excited that we connected. And, I was just on your show. And like we talked about having a podcast, you just get to, meet awesome people. And one of my
Absolutely.
podcasts connected us. So it's kind of funny how that all works. So pretty
Yep,
cool. When we talked, I was like, wow, we got a lot in common, and
we do.
hopefully, some differences though to really help the listener here understand that everyone's journey is going to be different. No two people have the same freelancing journey, entrepreneurial journey, writing journey. So, where did this all start for you?
Yeah, it started for me back in 2018, about midway through 2018. I was working with my dad. My dad's a pastor of a church here in Daytona Beach, Florida. I worked on his staff. I enjoyed it, but I also knew that I kind of wanted to think about the next thing for me. I didn't want to be the person to kind of take over after he was gone. And so I saw that, I'm going to have to be eventually picking a new career, whether that be in my mid 40s or whether that be now. I'd rather be doing that now, closer to 30 rather than later. And so I was just kind of in this weird place because my dad, and we're close as a family, and we've been in the same area for a long time. I haven't had a whole lot of change in my life, to be honest with you. I kind of went straight from college into the position with him, and it's like this first time in my life where I just didn't know what the next phase was. It was just kind of this odd time of searching where I was like, what do I want to do with my life? Kind of what do I want my 30s to look like? And so. I just kind of started having this time of self-reflection where I was trying to think about just, I think how anybody should, when you're trying to figure out a career that you think is a good opportunity. What do you enjoy? What do you love? What are you passionate about? And I was really passionate about helping people with their personal finances. I just had become a personal finance nerd when I was in high school, kind of like my senior year of high school into college. Because I knew I probably wasn't going to be making a ton of money working at the church, but I didn't want that to hold me back from my goals as far as buying a home, being able to travel the world with my wife. I really love travel. I didn't want the income to be to hold me back and to be a restriction on those things. So I just got to become like a personal finance ninja and figure this stuff out. So I became like super obsessed with the whole idea of saving, investing, and that kind of stuff. And then I would share with people, and I'd be like, "Man, you're making so much money, but you're dumb. You got to figure out how to manage this better." And so I became someone that people would kind of turn to, and I was like, I really enjoy this. I get a lot of fulfillment out of helping people find financial freedom. Could I make a living in some way doing this? And so I did not like land upon writing immediately. It took me a little while. As you said, everyone's journey is different. And so I thought about being a CFP for a while and becoming a financial planner, but I was like, just not really I'm not somebody who feels like I'm going to get excitement out of managing wealth for people. I kind of want to help them build wealth, like get to that point where they have wealth for somebody else to manage down the road. I want to help people get out of debt, help people like find success. And then I was like, well, you know what? I'm reading all these articles online from people. That's how I've learned. Uh, I could do that. Of course, I didn't realize how hard it is. I thought it would be simple. I could just create a site and I'd be ranking tomorrow. So that was kind of how it started. I'm like, I'm going to be a blogger. And so I started my blog in May of 2018. And then in September of 2018, I went to a conference called FinCon where I was hoping to grow my blog. Little did I know that it was going to change my life because I actually was going to learn about this newfangled idea for me called freelance writing. And that's where a guy that I met who's now a close friend of mine told me about the opportunity to make money writing for other publishers. And I got to meet some editors there. And I said, you know what? Well, if I want to make a full-time living writing, and I had to set a goal of a year from that point, a year from May 2018. So I wanted by May 2019 to be doing something full-time with writing. I'm like, I better try freelancing first and put this blog as maybe a long-term goal. And so I went all into it. And then by May of 2019, I was a full-time writer. So that's kind of my quick story there.
I love it. No, there's so many great takeaways there. I mean, hopefully people can just you have to sometimes get quiet and figure out what you want, so that way you can then go for it. And it sounds like that was a reflection process that you had and really helped you kind of map out what you wanted, and then writing it down, putting that goal in front of you. And now you're obviously crushing it with writing. And I think it all starts though with that first idea. So nice job with that side of things. And then,
Thanks, man.
with blogging and writing, I always talk about that a lot too, because I think a lot of people want to get started online, and a blog seems cool. You get to create this laptop lifestyle and affiliate income and all that. And
Hmm.
for me, it was a huge failure. And I just know so many people kind of struggle with blogging. So were you just like on the fence, or did you say, hey, was it pretty clear, like, I'm going to try freelancing instead of blogging?
Yeah, well, like I said, I met this guy at this conference, and I was like, man, I just love writing about personal finance stuff. I love helping people with writing about this, and I just want to be able to make a living doing it. And he's like, well, dude, if you really want to make a living writing, he's like, the blog could be a really good long-term passive income stream. But if you want to make money today, he's like, you might want to consider freelance writing. And I literally said, what's freelance writing? I asked him that at the time. And once I realized that I could maybe get to a full-time living writing faster with freelance writing, it was a no-brainer for me because that's really all I cared about. Not that I'm not going to say that I wouldn't love to be able to be making a full-time living off my blog, because it is more passive. It can be more passive. And it can give you more freedom, and you don't really have as much of an income ceiling, I would say, with blogging than you're going to have. You are still trading time for money with writing. I get all those things, but I legitimately enjoy writing. I legitimately enjoy taking a complicated idea for most people and trying to make it understandable in a way that people can walk away and be like, oh, okay, I get this. I know how this applies to my life. And I feel more informed, and protecting people from scams and protecting people from misinformation out there through the written word, to me, is kind of cool, because I could write an article today and it could be helping people 3 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
And so the fact that I get paid to do that, to me, is like crazy. And if you work hard and develop a good reputation, you can get paid very handsomely for it. And I was like, I was happy to make my first $50, bro. I was like, are you serious? This is insane. And then like within like 12 months, I was making $10,000 a month. So like, it's been a crazy journey. I still can't quite believe this is happening. So it's been really awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I love that though. Hopefully people can see. I mean, you went from, zero to,
Hmm.
your first post and then making five figures, and I didn't find it that fast, but I mean, I definitely found that it just scales so easily. And it's just like that to me is one of the things where you can just literally get clients and just keep scaling and raise your rates and mix it up. But it's like once you get that first one, a lot of things are possible. So how did you first land your client? Was it through FinCon, or if it was, like, what was the first thing you did outside of that that wasn't referral based to land a client?
Sure. So yeah, I was at FinCon. I went and I have this thing called this freelance marketplace where you go and you sit down, and like with like 30 editors were there trying to get people to work for their blogs. And so they would have this lines of people waiting to sit down at these tables to talk to these editors. And I have no paid writing experience. I mean, I'm the last person they're going to pick. I mean, this is like a serious competitive room, right? So I'd like sit down at all these tables, hand them my card, and be like, just try to put a smile on my face and just try to make a connection. And so thankfully I had my blog, because I didn't have any paid writing experience, but I did have that. So I could be like, I haven't written for any sites as a freelance writer yet, but you can check out some of my, my writing on my site. I'd love for you to see if the quality of my work is something that would work for you. And I'll follow up. And so I did. I sent follow-up emails to all these people. I only heard back, I want to say, from one at the time. And it was a 5 cent per word client. And it was like a newer site. It was a second site for this guy who owned another larger site. So he's kind of like, he almost had his own little content mill, so to speak. And they were like, does this work for you, this rate? And they wanted me to start with a trial article first, even at that rate.
We worked for the same client. I know exactly right.
Okay. So I was like, yes to all that. I'm like, right. Are you serious? I was get paid 5 cents per word. To me, that was like, awesome. So I was like, and yes, I'll do the trial article. So I wrote like this. Oh man, I think my first assignment was X places to find a notary public near you. I mean, I came up with 19 freaking places. It was like the most just awful topic you could imagine. I wrote stuff for that client, like, X places that offer free fax services near you. I mean, it was just insane stuff.
My worst one for that client was how to write a check.
Yep.
And I somehow
Exactly.
made it 1,500 or 2,000 words.
Yeah. 21 ways to make money scanning grocery receipts. I mean, all kinds of stuff like this.
Painful. But
Yeah,
hopefully
it
people
was
can see,
painful.
though, that you got to start somewhere. And I'm not saying that you should take like super low rates, but I think the biggest thing is like you should just get in there, and like once you like get paid, even though it was $50 or whatever it was, like how much confidence did that just like instill in you?
Yeah, it did. And so around that time, I also took I think you have a writer's course, and I took a writer's course around that time. And it really helped me kind of, I would say, clarify my vision, helped me see, okay, this is the process that a professional minded writer needs to follow. Somebody who's serious about this. And I had a day job at the time. So I was getting up and I was writing from like 5 to 8 and then doing my 8 to 5 was kind of how I did it. So I was putting about 15 hours per week into my side hustle. And so I was able to build it to about, I mean, it wasn't that much. It was probably like, I mean, it was much if it was a side hustle, but as far as it becoming my day job, I think it was up to like $4,000 a month, I want to say, when I left my day job. So I wasn't like,
A lot more credit, man. That's huge. You kidding me? Most people, I mean, the average salary in the U.S. is like 56,000 pre-pandemic. So I mean, you were only making what people make in your side hustle, and that's smart that you did the side hustle before you quit, unlike me. But
well, I was scared, man. I was scared to launch out. I was like,
let's
I'm
talk about that too. Because that's a big thing for people is like, do I do this on the side? Do I quit? And there's no one way to do it. Everyone's situation, I feel like, should be different. But what were you experiencing? And like, was there a certain amount you had to make to prove to yourself, or what finally made you?
Yeah, I wanted to be at 80% of my day job income is what I wanted to be at.
Cool.
I felt like if I could be at 80% of my day job income, working 15 to 20 hours per week, I thought I could push myself over the edge once I went to full time. And then I also didn't spend any of my side hustle income during that year. So I saved every penny of it so that I built up myself a nice savings pot to where if I needed to kind of have this gradual on-ramp to this full-time writing life, I could. Thankfully, within like 2 months of launching full-time, I had like doubled my income, which was great. But I mean, I was prepared for that not to be the case. And so that I would say is important. I think a lot of people are like, I have one client, I know I can do this full time, and maybe you can. And if you have an emergency fund in place and you want to take that risk, I say, okay, whatever, go for it. But if you don't have an emergency fund in place and you only have maybe one client and a few articles that you're getting paid for, you might want to be careful not to leave your day job until you, unless you're pretty sure that this is going to be something that you could make a living with. And so for me, it helped me to have, about 8 to 9 months of like figuring out the process before I went out and like made it my day job and then did it full time. And it was almost like, in some ways, it was almost like I got a relief, because I was working a day job plus these hours. And then I was like, oh, wow, that's all I have to do now. So it was like I was scaling back in a sense, but making more money. So yeah, it was good. I remember going back to what you asked me earlier about like, how did I find clients? So it's funny, like I found that first client, 5 cents a word. The only other client to respond to me responded 2.5 months after my initial email. Okay. So I sent my follow-up email a week after the conference. This client didn't respond till like 2 months later. It ended up being the highest paid client probably at that conference. And it's just crazy. Reach back out. Oh, I'm sorry it took me so long to get back to you. I'd like to set up a phone call. I'm like, are you kidding me? Holy crap. I'm like, yeah. So I talked to them on the phone. I guess she must have liked the conversation enough to send me to the next stage, which was a trial article, which after that, I got the gig. So to this day, that's still my highest paid client. And at the time, I was writing for 5 cents a word and that client. It couldn't have been more opposite,
really, man.
Man.
Tough to work with some of the to prioritize it when you have very different clients. I've been there, but I love your story. That's literally why I started this podcast, is to share inspiring stories, because that is the epitome, like solid millennial move right here. You hustled from 5 to 8. Then you went to your day job. You didn't spend it. I mean, this is like the playbook for what I would tell someone to do. but I don't think a lot of people would get up at 5 to 8 or 4 to start writing at 5, whatever you were doing. So I love that. But like,
Yeah.
what do you think? What was driving you in that beginning time?
Oh man, I think I had a self-imposed deadline upon myself. So like I knew I had told my dad in, like I said, in May of 2018, I'm like, Dad, I'm going to be quitting like this position to start something new by like a year from now. I just don't know what it's going to be. So I kind of had that self-imposed deadline. But I told myself if I didn't make a living writing about personal finance, I was actually going to get my teacher's certification and like become like an economics teacher in the school system and like try to scare those kids out of student debt as much as I could and teach them how to budget and teach them how to invest and like impact lives that way. So like I honestly would have been okay with that. It's not like it would have been terrible. I would have enjoyed it. But I had this kind of self-imposed deadline that I'm like, man, if I'm going to figure this out, I got to have to figure it out. And so like, I knew there was like an end in mind, and it kind of helped me motivate me to get up. And I have a family. I have a wife, and I have 2 boys. And so I was like, man, this is kind of scary. My wife right now, she doesn't work. She stays at home. So they all rely upon my income. So I didn't have that kind of to lean on to where my wife is bringing in money as well, to where I could kind of just take a few months and not make anything and we'd be okay. So yeah, I mean, when you have all that kind of pressure, you wake up and you get the work done. And my dad's he's a very hardworking guy. And so I kind of got my work ethic from him. And I've just tried to always be somebody who works hard. And I would say that I worked just as hard for that 5-cent a word client as I did for the client that was paying me $500 per article. And I would give them just as much time, and I would pour myself into the research for that. I mean, I actually went to a couple banks for one article for that, actually in the car to ask them some questions about one of these assignments that I had. I was just busting my tail to prove myself because I never knew who I would get referred to, because I was like that person who went the extra mile. And it ended up that the person I was sending my invoices to with this client that we both had, she actually in January of 2019 got hired as the editor of a huge site. She probably wouldn't mind if I shared it, called Choose FI. Some of you maybe have heard of it. It's a very, very big podcast and blog in the financial independence world. So she was just the person I was sending my invoices to at the client that you and I worked for. But because she saw my work, she got hired as the editor for Choose FI. She reaches out to me January of 2019 and asks me if I'd be willing to write for them at 3 times the price I was getting for the other client. So, but if I would have been like just sandbagging it and not working hard for him, then I maybe never would have had that opportunity. She ended up giving me 2 more clients later on. So literally half of my income today comes from her alone in sites that she's referred me to. So like, man, you never know who is paying attention to your work. So just if your name's going to be on it, do your best. That's kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah, that's an awesome story right there too. And it's so true. You really never know who's going to read it or who's going to listen to your podcast or watch your YouTube. It's pretty amazing. Like sometimes when you just figure out like, hey, just do the work. And I can't remember who said the quote. It said, go the extra mile. It's never crowded. And
that's true.
I love that you said that. So what are, some of the mistakes you think that a lot of writers make in the beginning of it that maybe you could share a couple of tips so that way they can kind of speed up success?
Yeah. When I talk to people who, like I've had some people that they reach out to me and they say, I want to get involved in writing. Can I send you a guest post? And I'm always like cool with that. Like, absolutely. Yeah. If you want to break into writing and this is your first opportunity to get an article published online, I'm actually all about helping you. But then they'll send me an article and either one, it'll have like, it'll just won't be like, it won't follow the same style guidelines as my site. I can tell they didn't even look at it. It maybe isn't even that well researched. Like I can tell like, man, you really spent like 30 minutes on this thing, bro. And like, you're wanting me to give you an opportunity to break into an opportunity somewhere else. The sourcing, maybe they just didn't do their due diligence to make sure the stats they used were for real. And they weren't just hearsay, but they actually came from like a real legitimate source. Just simple things like that. That I'm like, sorry, I can't recommend you to one of my editors. And if I'm saying that, they're not even working for me. I know editors are feeling the exact same way. if you're wanting to write for a client and you send an article to an editor and you didn't read their style guide, because they're going to have one, and you didn't try to maybe include some internal links, spend 5 extra minutes to include a few links to their other articles on their site, and you didn't make sure you capitalize the headers the way they want you to, just little things like that. I think that if you can become your editor's best friend and save them time and save them effort, they're going to like not want to lose you. And so like when I went to FinCon and the second time, I raised my rates on all my current clients, and I was like, man, this is my standard rate now. I don't want to lose you because I love writing for you, but I just need to know, can I raise my rate to my standard rate with you? I need to know before I go to FinCon, because I'm going to obviously have opportunities to talk to new clients while I'm there. And they're like, no. Don't talk to anybody else. You know what I mean? Yes, we'll raise your rate to that rate. And it wasn't insane. It was like 5 cents per word, right? And I think that if you just really, really think like an editor and think about the things that they're going to have to do, and you can save them time, you're going to do just fine as a writer. And take a course like yours and you can learn how to do that.
Perfect. No, I love it. I think that I always say, make it easy for clients to say yes. Just do what you can to make their job easier, whether it's uploading it to WordPress or formatting it or adding some images, internal, external links. I love that you said that, because that's something I found, and I have a very high retention with any clients I've had. Just because I do that, and it doesn't take that much longer, and it will let you get those raises. It'll obviously keep clients, so that way you don't have to keep finding new ones, and that'll help your sanity and a lot more. So yeah, really glad you said that. And then if you were starting right now, and personal finance, that's kind of where I got started as well. Say you had to start something else right now as a writer. Maybe a lot of people listening to this are either laid off or lost their job with the pandemic and stuff. Where would you recommend starting now?
In regards to finding clients, you mean?
Yeah, in regards to writing in general. Would it be a blog? Would it be Medium? Would it be freelancing?
Yeah.
If it was freelancing, how would you do it? Just because I think that a lot of people are going to be looking for online opportunities to obviously make some money and to pay the bills. But it's a lot.
Yeah,
and you started.
Yeah. I think it depends on your goals. Like if you're somebody who really just wants to like make money on the side, and you don't ever intend to like possibly make blogging like your full-time job down the road, then I don't know if creating a blog and trying to build that is worth the effort for everybody. Like if you're just wanting to make an extra $1,000 of income, then maybe you should start straight with trying to find freelance writing clients. And you can do that by, if you want to build a small portfolio of like your writing clips, you can probably reach out to people and ask for a guest post opportunity, like I just mentioned. You're going to have to add value to them. They're not going to give a guest post to anybody. But if you're not asking for a backlink, which if you don't have a blog, you're not going to be asking for a backlink, and you're just literally just trying to get your name out there, they're probably going to be willing to give you that chance, because you're basically working for them for free, and they're not having to give anybody a link. So that's a pretty easy sell for a blog owner. So I would say that's probably the easier way to get 4 or 5 articles online. Pick a niche, and then find people who are influencers in that space. Put together a nice cold pitch to email them and tell them you're trying to become a writer and you want to get some articles online. Then once you have a few samples online of your work, then you can go to some of these job boards. Obviously, ProBlogger, there's Contently, there's Upwork, all these different places. If you are someone who has, I would say, a moderate amount of experience, Contently tends to be, I would say, where some of the higher paying clients go to. But if you're just getting started, Upwork obviously is a great opportunity to get some kind of those first kind of beginner clients under your belt. I would not recommend Text Broker. I'm just telling you right now, they pay like nothing to their writers. It's really, Text Broker. It's a content mill that pays like 3 cents a word. So I would say don't do that. And they have the right, the blog owners have the right to make you up to 2 revisions and then still choose not to publish it if they don't like it. It's really like these people are just basically getting like whipped. And so I would say, make sure you're at a place that's going to pay you fairly and you have a few more rights. And by the way, everything on Text Broker is ghost written, so you don't even get a byline. Okay. So just be careful with where you go to find work, because there are definitely people out there who are willing to pay you. I mean, if you don't have a lot of experience, I would say 5 to 10 cents a word is probably what you're going to garner. But there's people who are willing to pay you that and give you a byline, even with very little experience. So look for that. And once you have some experience under your belt, then I would say try to build that Contently profile, or create a website that's more of a static website that you can feature your work on a Hire Me page, and kind of grow it from there.
That's awesome. That's literally like if people just listened to that and did that. Exactly what you said. Niche down, create some samples, get a pitch, and just rinse and repeat. So that's how you get the first ones. And then you scaled pretty quickly. Any tips you had on like what it takes to go from like 1,000 to 5,000 to 10,000? Anything you found that really helped you scale? Because it can get daunting when you have multiple clients and points of contact and deadlines. Any kind of tips that you had for us?
Yeah, writing calendar is huge for me. I always, every time I get an email or a assignment sent, because some of these different clients, they use different assignment apps and stuff, Asana or somebody else will use this tool or however they assign their work to you, it needs to go to one master calendar immediately. And don't put it off. I mean, immediately it needs to get put on your master calendar, and don't accept an assignment. If they ask you, can you turn this in on this date? If you have like 4 different assignments due that date and you're not going to be able to do it, then don't say you can. Ask. It's better to ask up front. Well, can we delay that 3 days to this date than to be late? I've never been late on an assignment, but I have asked that several times because my writing calendar is already full for that date. So create your writing calendar. And if you look at your writing calendar and you're like, man, it's only half full, then you can add some work. So then how do you do that? For me, I wanted to start with my network of people I knew first, because they were the people who could vouch for my work. So I would reach out to my current editors and I would be like, hey, do you know of any, I know editors talk to editors. So if you ever hear of any editors that are looking for work, just so you know, I'm trying to become a full-time writer by X date. And I sent this to all my current editors around January of 2019. And so I would love to have any work that you hear of. I'd love for you, to recommend me. And so they would do that for me, which was really nice. And I get opportunities that way. I also told my current editors I had more availability. So, hey, if you have extra assignments you need someone to knock out, let me know. I can do rush assignments too, typically. If you just give me the opportunity, and whenever I can, I'll make sure to knock that out for you fast. And so that was 2 ways I scaled up my work. And then I did do a little bit of cold pitching. So like, one of my biggest clients as far as name recognition, I reached out to on LinkedIn. I just found an editor on LinkedIn. I just sent a quick little letter of introduction saying who I was. I threw in a few clips of my writing samples, and I said, I know you guys like to talk about these kind of topics, and I have a lot of experience in those topics. I'd love to hear back from you. And I was literally writing for them like 3 days later. So yeah, there's various ways to do it, but those are my 3 different kind of, I would say, top ways that I did it.
Well, this has been unbelievable, man. There's so many good lessons in here. Hopefully people can just go back. I mean, you gave them the blueprint of how to get started and how to scale. So thank you for unveiling all your secrets there. So thank you so much. And again, hopefully people listen to this. Don't just listen and not take action. Actually implement at least one thing from each episode. So before I ask my last question, where is the best place for everybody to connect with you, learn more about what you're working on, your blog, anything like that?
Yeah, so my blog is walletwiseguy.com. Walletwiseguy.com is my site, and I really kind of focus on content for personal finance, content for millennials and young people, students, a lot of college and student loan content's on there. So if you're a young person who wants to know kind of how to get started with investing or paying off your student loans or graduating college debt-free, buying your first home, a lot of my content on there has to deal with those type of topics. I do have a few topics on freelance writing, but my site isn't really geared towards how to become a freelance writer. It just happens to be how I make a living. But my site is focused on personal finance tips for young people. So yeah, definitely would love people to check it out. I also have a podcast where I interview people who have done just kind of really amazing things as a young person and have started businesses or paid off a lot of student debt. And so I just try to inspire people on my podcast, Wallet Wise Guy podcast, which you're going to be featured on here in a couple of weeks, which I'm very excited about.
I'm just glad you considered me young. I really appreciate that.
Well,
I stopped getting ID'd lately, and it's sad. So.
that definition is becoming more and more blurred over time.
Perfect. Well, I'll definitely link to everything in the show notes for everybody.
Thanks, man.
And so for the last question, what is the best piece of advice you feel like you've been given in your entrepreneurial journey?
Great question. Best piece of advice I've been given. I think one of the best pieces of advice I've been given was from PT Money, when I talked to him and just talking about how to grow a site, how to grow a blog, and was talking about the importance of doing what you do well, and then outsourcing as much as you can what you don't do well or what you don't enjoy. I know that's something that you and I have talked about, that you're doing a better job of right now and working towards, and that's something that I know I need to do a better job of, is finding ways to kind of put off the things that I don't do well and that I don't enjoy to other people. And when it comes to like my blog, for example, like I have this podcast, and like I just, I do not enjoy like the tech side of like doing all the work and the show notes and all that kind of stuff. And so I'm trying to outsource those things. On my freelance writing side, I really don't write about things that it's kind of not in my wheelhouse. So I just don't reach out to sites that aren't going to like be a topic that I'm really good at and that I'm an expert in, because I realize that like I'm not going to be able to have probably a very good return on my time, and somebody else would be able to do that better than me. So I think knowing what to say no to, and knowing where your skills and your talents lie and what you're an expert in. I know as a writer, that's really been a big deal for me. Like student loans is kind of one of these niches that I've kind of dug deep into. I've written probably 200 articles for one client just about student loans. And that has allowed me to write articles for people on student loans in like 45 minutes, right? Or a credit card article in an hour. Whereas someone else, it might take them 4. So I say just kind of know where you're really knowledgeable and know what you're good at, and then just really kind of hammer on those strengths instead of wasting all this time like on things that you're not good. Like I'm terrible at social media. And I finally realized I'm just not good at social media. So I'm not going to try to be this person who's coming up with great interactive questions every single day, 5 times a day for people. I'm not going to be able to build a blog that way. So I've focused on SEO because I am good at SEO, and I'm crappy at being an influencer on social. And so I guess, and if I want to do better at social, I'm going to have to hire a social media person to manage that for me, because that's just never going to be me. So that would be my one piece of advice for myself that I need to follow more.
Yeah, no, I think everyone can learn from that. I mean, I try and talk about that as well. Just to focus on what you're good at. You can't be good at everything. I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs are super high achievers and want to be the best at everything they do and try and do 18 things at once.
Yeah.
Between context switching and just your energy levels, it's really, really hard. So I think that is a perfect ending. So thank you so much again for being on the show, man. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely. All right. Well, hopefully you guys enjoyed the interview with Clint. For me, that was really inspiring to see someone set a goal, have a deadline, and hit it, and then some. So hopefully you can, again, learn from him. And remember, he was one of those people that decided, hey, I don't want to quit my job yet. I want to figure this thing out. And that's a really, really good strategy. He was working 5 to 8 in the morning. He was able to make $4,000 a month as a part-time freelance writer and still had his job. And that way, when he did leap, he was able to have some money saved up, and he was able to scale really, really quickly. So again, hopefully that just shows you there's a lot of opportunity out there to make money as a freelance writer. And it's really hard for me to find another job where you could go from 0 to 10K with essentially zero overhead like you can with writing. So again, maybe listen to this again, go through it, and really implement some of these things like he talked about. Pick your niche, create some samples, and get out there and just pitch some clients. So you guys can do this. Thanks again for tuning in. Stay safe out there. And as always, I hope you have an epic day. Thanks for listening to this episode of Inspire Your Success podcast. If you're the kind of person who likes to help others, please leave a positive review on iTunes so more people can learn about the show. Also, if you have any questions about freelancing, I'm here to assist. Please email support@inspireyoursuccess.com, and I may even use your question for a future episode topic. And if you want more inspiration and freelance writing tips to build your business, follow me on Instagram. My username is @IamMichaelLeonard. Finally, if you're ready to learn how to make your first $1,000 as a freelance writer, check out my free 7-day series at inspireyoursuccess.com/1K. Thanks again for listening.